Hey Dasharat, how are you?
I am fine. How are you?
Good man. Okay, so we all have joined today to talk about what's new in 2023 release wave 2. I didn't get much chance to play around, but I was following the tweets as well as on the LinkedIn posts as they were coming in. So we'll see how that goes. And if there's something that seems off, we will talk about it. So first thing, which was not available till now, I guess it was already released in the previous version, sometime in the middle. But people who have tried using the what do you call that, the preview versions, it was very hard to use it in the past from a development perspective. You need to be part of the insider build program to get access to the VSIX file to do development into the upcoming version, right? And people who know this, I guess we used to go somewhere. Where is that? I forgot it because it's old thing. But yeah, okay, not here. Let me create a project and walk you through around it. When we do that, now you see a 12.0 available as of today. Normally, it will come when the actual release is out. So when Microsoft do a general announcement of the release, then they will release the VSIX associated to that version. But with this enhancement that we are just looking at, Microsoft made sure that anyone who have automatic updates available for all their apps on VS Code, the AL extension app also get updated and gives you an option to choose the pre-built release. And we'll see what that means. Okay, I'll just say Cloud Sandbox and let it go there and fail if that makes sense. But where was that option? I used it last year. There's an option to, oh, sorry, you need to go to extension management and then you see that option. Yeah. So in the past, before this release, if you are working, if you are trying to develop something on the upcoming release, you have to go into this option and you can only get access to VSIX file if you are part of the insider build program. And now how that file looks like, if anybody is interested, you need to go to your old version, which is, if I'm not wrong, Business Central 13 or 14. I'm not sure about 13, but in Business Central 14, with this folder, you see this AL language VSIX, because that is very much dependent on that version. So in the initial releases of Business Central, you get this file. I'm sure that doesn't come now, but let's have a look. Oh, it still comes. Okay. So on an on-prem installation, if you need, you don't have to rely on the VS Code extension. You can also install your associated VSIX file for the version from your local folders, installed folders. Now, the things to remember on this one, as you see this icon here, this tells you that it is a pre-release version here. And it might give you an error if you're trying to utilize this and having the runtime 12.0, because then in your app.json, this sets it to 12.0 and it automatically looks for symbol for 23. So if a developer is working on it, if they don't pay attention and just hit enter and enter, they'll end up automatically getting connected to 12.0, which right now would have failed while trying to download symbol, because my sandbox is mapped to the 22 release at this moment. So that's why this did not work. So keep that in mind. But anybody who had who's using AL extension and have set automatic update of it would have got upgraded to the pre-release version of that extension. So just keep that in mind. But it's a good news if you are trying to test out things with the preview release. So till now, you are not able to do new developments until unless you are part of the insider build program from Microsoft. But going forward, this will automatically get updated and you'll be able to access and utilize it with your sandboxes or your Docker environment. Any questions on this before we move to the next topic? If it causes a problem, there's a button on the screen on your AL extension window. Let me pop that up again, where you can switch to the release version, which will then only give developer option till 11.0 as of today. But there's a lot automatically get updated, and as we were saying in the past with the preview release, that we can't do development, you will be able to test out and change your extensions if required based on the preview builds. Okay, then let's move to the next one, which is customize field editability from UI. So we all know about the personalized option. Going forward, or in this release, you now have an option to lock editing, which kind of makes that field editable false. So let's go in here and have a look on that. So when you are on the screen, and which is an editable screen, you can always go into your personalized option, choose a field, and set that to lock editing. Now remember, don't do it on personalization, because then personalization will only apply to you as a single user. This option is also available when you get into your profiles page. So utilize this option while you're trying to customize the profiles, because then it applies to anybody who uses that profile. So if I'm trying to modify this profile, okay, I should be done with this. And then from here, you can choose to customize pages, which opens a separate tab into the customization mode. And then it records all your changes into an extension, which is stored inside the application. But if you utilize that option to lock fields using personalization field, then profiles, then that'll apply to every user who uses that profile. So just to kind of uh, change a field editability, you don't have to come to partners if you are a customer. If this is bugging you, you can just lock the editing of it. And that's all about that feature, nothing much into it. Okay, let's go back and see what else is there, which I was able to check. This is nice. I was trying to see how you can do it on custom pages. I was not able to do it right now, but with the introduction of Business Central, there were quite a few customers who had problems while navigating to the parent record while they are on a transaction. Like, so if you're on sales order and you are trying to select an item or a GL account, there was a limitation, as in there was no option to actually see this record from here. In this release, they have added this button now called show detail, which automatically pops up the card of that particular selected record on the lookup page. So when you click on it, it'll directly go to the item page and pop up that item card. And hopefully it is applicable throughout the system. Let's have a quick check on it. I'm not sure, I haven't tested it out, but oh, this seems to be, oh, maybe I need to select a value. Okay. So if you have selected a value, you then can click on show detail and that pops up that card that you have. And in that case, because I didn't try that, I'm pretty sure it's just if you set the table relation, the lookup page ID and the drill down page ID on your custom development, the show detail is a platform feature will automatically also be available on your custom development. So you don't have to do anything separate for it. It automatically understands the card page ID associated to this record and pops up that card. So no custom development for that. Okay, this is one of the most talked about topic. Open Visual Studio Code from web client to investigate or troubleshoot extension. Now this is pretty interesting how Microsoft have done it, and plus how easy it makes life, at least for our consultant. I know developers were able to do it, but for our consultant, it kind of saves their life. So they are on a record. They know that there is a problem and this is applicable to production and sandboxes. And they have learned how to do what is that called? Snapshot debugging. Now they want to enable the snapshot debugging or normal debugging. What they can do is they can go into help and support, because there's an option in help and support also. And they can do an attach debugger to this session. When they click on it, it automatically takes them to a separate tab, and that fails because it is trying to connect to a online VS Code session. Okay, they should have changed that. But then the other option that is available is via page inspection, which everybody uses, right? So when you go into inspect page and data on any entity, what you can do is explore this page in VS Code. Now, as soon as I'll click this, this will pop up my VS Code. So let me keep that open here also. Let me use this. I'll create a separate project for this. So let's click on this. It'll ask you for the permission. And once you click open, it'll say, do you want to use a current project or create a new project? Say, okay, let's create a new project for it. Now it automatically understands what is your environment name, which environment you are connected to. And it seems there is a question. Tanya, go ahead.
Is it production for
It is
production?
not production because it's preview at this moment, but this also
Yeah,
works for production.
yeah.
All right. So what it did is, let's have a look. I had an option which I disabled, I guess, clicked and just went away. But it understood the environment that I'm connected to, and it created 3 configuration. The first configuration is for debugger to attach. And then this is my environment name. This is a sandbox. It picked up my session ID, and let's just verify that. Did it pick the right session ID? So if I go into my, okay, help and support, somewhere I can see my session ID. The session ID is 9338, and that's what it picked. So it understood the session that I clicked that action on, and then it set the break on next as web client, and it also skipped the try statement during break. That is the first profile. The second profile is for snapshot. So if you want to do a snapshot debugging, you don't have to remember all the parameters. This one single click from your web client can create your snapshot profile also. And then the default option, which is debug and profile, so that you can also generate the profile file that you can analyze as a developer if needed. And third and the last one is added for this, which is just for symbol download. So now it understand that it need to download symbol, but why it downloaded the GP historical data? Let's see the app.json. So it created an app.json, named it as generated project one, and added a dependency to it for Dynamics GP historical data. And that happened because I'm guessing that has a dependency, or that was the part of the extension on this particular page. So let's have a look on that. Inspect page and data. And you'll be able to see that in the extension management, there is dynamic GP historical data. So it understands from the page where you're coming from, and then it automatically add that dependency into your app.json generated file. Now this works on your base pages or base entities that you are in, and also on your custom entities as they are in, and builds all the files that are required to initialize the normal debugging or snapshot debugging if required. Okay, but that's not it. If you are on a page and you want to actually look a field, so let's say if I would like to see what this field look like, address to, because I was trying to do something and it gave me an error. Let's say in mobile phone number, if I typed ABCD, gave me an error and I don't know what the error is. And it says something. Let's see what it says. Must not contain letters. And for my understanding, I don't understood what that error means. For whatever reason, I can just search for that field here, which is this. And then on these three dots, I can actually click and say explore field in VS Code. Now that depends on the extension that you're trying to access right now. If that extension allows you to see the source code, when you click on it, it'll automatically take you back there and ask you the same download data symbol. Okay, let's download it. Once this gets the symbols, latest symbols get downloaded, it'll automatically take you to that field code which is there. So then it'll automatically navigate to you that field. Now, people who are ISV partners, you don't have to worry about it if you have limited your permission to access that particular object or uh, the whole extension altogether. And if that's the case, then it'll not navigate you to that field. So it's just based on what kind of permission extension developer have decided while they were building that extension. So let's wait for it a while and it should navigate directly into the code. Okay, I should have said no, I think, but let's see. Okay, anything else that you have heard uh, which is cool enough so that we can talk about it while this is happening? Okay, it's
I
downloading. Same.
recently downloaded the preview 23 version is yes, yeah, yes, I can see that attached debugger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm exploring again.
Okay, because I was on a different page right now, it actually generated a different app.json or updated my app.json and added another dependency of exclude master data management because the card page has a dependency associated with that particular page. So, okay, it's taking a lot of time for base application to download, but if it is there, I guess that'll save us time. How many have heard about the feature of namespace? Because that's a pretty interesting thing that Microsoft have released for developers. And I don't know, did they even talked about it in the release note or not? I'll have to look for it. But namespace was a thing that everybody seems to be waiting about.
Name
And sorry,
namespaces. Is it
yes.
names?
People who are developer need to pay very detailed attention into it because that changes a lot of things for us at this moment. So while the symbols are being downloaded, let's wait for it. But what namespaces bring into the picture, and maybe, and I can be completely wrong into it, but that uh, eliminates the use case for prefixes, object prefixes that we have used till now. So you can actually define a namespace on an object, and then inside a namespace, you can have multiple objects. A AL file can now define a namespace at the top. So you actually define the namespace at the top of your object, which will apply to all the objects in that code file. So if you have 5 objects in one file, which you should not have, they all will be kind of grouped into that namespace. Now, this is interesting that a given object can only belong to one namespace, but the same namespace can be used in multiple AL files. While compiler will try to resolve the object understanding or object name, it'll try to find out the closest scope used first. Therefore, to resolve a similarly named object in the dependent extension, the reference must be fully qualified name. So understand it. So if there is a table sales header, which is there on the base app, and if you create a separate namespace and define a table sales header, in the code where you have utilizing your namespace and not Microsoft namespace, the system will automatically look for sales header that is created by you, not by Microsoft. So you can actually have similar objects name going forward, which I don't know, I should disagree at this moment. You should not have, but with namespace that is possible. Now this is interesting how Microsoft is doing it, because that also adds a layer or a little bit of more code that we will have to write going forward as these
So,
folders. Go ahead, Tanya.
Saurabh,
Yeah,
can you share
sir.
some practical example for the namespace? I mean, practically when we are doing a development for a implementation, something
We'll,
like that.
I'll
How
yeah,
do we use the namespace?
we'll try that. I haven't tried it, but I have seen how Microsoft is trying it. So we'll we'll try to see that. Let me see
I
what
just
happens
wanted to
here.
understand the concept used in our practical.
Okay, that makes
So,
sense.
so
Yeah,
basically, a
Tanya.
namespace can have multiple objects, but just like you said, take an example, sales header is in one of the namespaces, right? So if I am calling my namespace and I have modified something in that sales header, so it will point to my sales header. That's what you're saying, and not Microsoft's.
Yes, and I'll show it to you. That's pretty interesting. I was just going into it. I didn't went much into it, but here is where it happened. Okay, if you remember when we clicked on this phone number and we said show me the code, it actually took me to that object. And if the code is allowed to be accessed, which you can see right now, then you can see where that code points to. So then that helps you in your debugging context. When you're debugging, you don't have to go 20 different places to find out where that code is, or where that object is, at least, or field is actually. If that field is allowed, you can just utilize it from here. So let's stop the debugging and let's talk about namespaces. And maybe a whole day today or in this meeting, we'll only talk about namespaces, because I'm also exploring it this moment. So let me open my earlier project if I can, because as I tried exploring the new version, and I haven't spent much time yet into it, but it was interesting how, like, I wanted to create a table extension on customer table. I said, okay, I'll download the symbol and I'll look for the customer table and then I'll get into it. People who have watched Microsoft session in my Busu conference, and those recordings are available for public on YouTube. Uh, that conference is called BC Tech Days. Now yeah, BC Tech Days, and they were showing it there. But let's come to this. Yeah, Tanya, go ahead. You had your hand raised, Tanya? No, no. Is it now?
Urji, I just put it down.
Yeah, great. Right. I'm going to open one of the table, and that's where I got confused why this happened. But it was interesting how they have done it. So maybe this is causing problem. Let me open my AL Explorer. Okay. Okay. It cannot load AL Explorer. Wow. Okay, let me just new extension and utilize the environment name here. Okay. Okay, so this should download symbols now. Application system. What's happening to this? Failed to register. It might be downloading at this moment. So we'll see that once that happens. Nothing. Weird. Let me see if I have another project that I created today that have the symbols already. Okay. Okay, maybe this one. Let's not waste time into it. Yeah, object designer. Okay. Seriously, it's not this time to. Let me close everything and open VS Code again. Okay, AL project 3 have the symbols. Okay. So which object Great mentioned? Let's look at this table 27. Now, can you see table 27? That to begin with. Can you even see table 27 here? Can you see our favorite sales header? It just has some random numbers, not all the objects, right? And I thought maybe I'm doing something wrong. So I went to AL Explorer. I was like, maybe this extension on preview releases kind of fails. So let me just go in here and look in the base application and look directly into an object. Let's do a table. So as I came here, the first table that I see is my table 9012. I'm like, okay, let me do 36. Now I see 36, but if I remove 36 from here, filter, I can't see that table. And then I remembered about the session from my Busu where they were talking about it. So I said, okay, let me see a group by namespace. Now what Microsoft is doing is trying to group these objects based on different namespaces that they have created. In the Microsoft one, you see a foundation layer, an inventory layer, a bank sales, and other layers. Now, when you go inside this, they have sub layers, and inside that, you get actual layer. And then when you come into this, and let's go into table 27 as Greg mentioned, and let's have a look on that. Item table. Now look at this. This table belongs to a namespace called Microsoft Inventory Item. So anytime if you are using namespace in your object and you would like to utilize somehow item table, if you don't define the namespace, I think at this moment you'll be able to utilize that table directly. But let's see. Let's create a new file. Let's create a new table, and I'll call it as SDH demo table. Okay.
I saw this yesterday, this architecture, but I was just guessing. I don't know what Microsoft has done
Mistake.
recently.
It's a
I was wondering, what has Microsoft done? What is all of this red happening and this and that? I was like, okay, we have to study. Something has come up. These are now not namespaces.
maybe a mistake from Microsoft side in the preview release. Okay, so if we define a namespace on top of this table, and I'm new to this, so let me do like this. I'll just copy it here and say, because that's it. Let's say demo. Let's say, let's see, open discussion. Now, once you have defined the namespace, I'm guessing at this point, if I try to create a variable of my, what is this error? It says I need to close this. Okay, so let's close this. Happy? Okay. So now if I try to create a variable of item and say record, can I see item? I can still say item. Okay. But okay, but can I name this table as item? Let me see. Oh, as soon as I added that variable, it started utilizing this. Oh, so it's pretty smart. So let me go back and try to save it again. Hopefully that's got removed. No? Okay. So let's do a var of customer table with record customer. Let's try to save it. As soon as this gets saved, I'm hoping a line will get appended on the top, but it says customer is missing. Okay, because I'm already utilizing this. So let me remove this. Let's see what happens now. Customer. As you see, as I added this variable, it automatically defined that I'm utilizing a namespace of Microsoft Sales.customer. Now this behavior will not happen if I don't use the namespace, and I'm assuming this at this moment, but let's try to do that. We'll still compile at this moment. But as soon as you identify one of your object that should be part of a namespace, you need to start thinking from the perspective of which of the other namespaces you are using. Let me give you another example here. If I define a variable for format address, and I don't think that should be part of the customer, and say code unit format address, it automatically identified that I'm trying to refer an object in the namespace of foundation address. So hopefully this feature remains as it is, where it automatically understand how a developer is defining these variables as I'm defining it right now. But if not, then that'll be a nightmare to kind of understand which object belong to which namespace. Now, when you come to item, it is a part of a namespace called Microsoft Inventory.item. And then that namespace is utilizing all these different namespaces, because there is a call to a code unit which is doing some text management. So it is referring to that code unit somewhere, and that's where this namespace has been added. And I don't think I can go to definition like this, which is a little bit crazy. But now that also gives you an option of how you would like to group your object. And as I said, I can actually name it as item. So let me try doing that. In the past, this would have been an error. I try to name a table, which is similar to other tables that exist in the system. But now, because it is overlapped with the namespace, it understands that I'm trying to resolve this within the namespace of BC Open Discussion. So if I just remove this, it will be a normal table as passed, and you'll get an error message that the application area is already defined by the base application, which is means that item exists in a namespace which is not this, right? So if you start getting errors, as in I'm pretty sure you'll not start getting errors on your existing extension because none of them has defined BC Open, the namespace. But okay, Great has a comment. This auto namespace where that puts using didn't work for me when I tested to create a page item list with source table item. Okay, let's try to create a page. Good. Let's try to create a page, and I'll call it as ch item, and from the item table, and let's do a list page. Users category list. List which item table it picked. It picked the closest namespace. The closest namespace is my table in my extension. So it picked this table while I was trying to refer the item table, not the Microsoft item table. Okay, so let me go back, cancel this, and change this to, for the time being, change this to SGH item so that I can actually create a page. Let's try to create a page. This time, it doesn't understand the item. Okay. Maybe this extension need to be upgraded, and I'll give that time to the developer because it just released yesterday, and hopefully this will be blank. But okay, let's try to add some field. Maybe this will also fail in that case. Yeah, this will also fail. Yeah, the wizard is also not working great, so I can't use it. But let's try to create add some fields. The page field. And let's try to get the number into it. Okay, got it. Now the field does not will not utilize these. The fields are just part of the namespace, right? The field are not utilizing these. These are just based on whatever the code that is written in different objects in this particular object. So somewhere Microsoft is utilizing some certain code, and if I try to add a variable like I did there, let's see what happens. If I try to do a format address and do a code unit of format address, it is not allowing me because I haven't added the namespace. So let me try to add the same namespace here. You'll have to define the namespace, and then and only then you'll understand that you are trying to utilize something which is outside the ecosystem. And this failed because why this failed? Okay, because now I'm dealing with my namespace, so I'll have to rely on my field because I have a oh, now it doesn't understand the whole item table as I put my object into my namespace. So if I do a source table and I try to do item, what happens? It adds it, right? So as soon as you define an object or a field which is not part of your namespace, it automatically understand and do a resolution, namespace resolution for you, and adds this using line for that namespace. It brings some clarity, a little bit of confusion also, but people who have worked on at least the object oriented programming would have seen these kind of references are very common in those languages, and that's what being added in Business Central in this release. Going back to Explorer, you now can define or group your objects based on namespaces, and then see which objects are grouped inside which namespace. The only problem, and I'm pretty sure these third-party extensions which I was using to kind of create using wizards and all will fix their extensions to support namespaces. But at this point, you can't utilize them because they don't understand the concept of namespace. And this is Microsoft way to do the cleanup. As I was listening to that session last time from my Busu, and there used to be an option of file, not the namespace, in the previous versions. So if you are still on runtime 11.0, go to AL Explorer and go to modules, choose your module, and then you will see a separate option. Instead of namespace, you will see a file. So what they were doing, they were storing the similar kind of objects in different folders, which now being replaced with the namespace. I'll be interested to see if I can I extract it, because normally that's where things are, not in this case. But when you get the actual app and you have the source code, and let me see if I find the older version of app so that I can show it to you guys how Microsoft was doing it. Okay, Navision application setup. Okay, let me bring in here so that everybody is clear. So if you are on, let's say 22.0, and you go into your applications and you try to extract base app, because this is the biggest app right at this moment. When you open the source code of this, what they were trying to do, and now they have replaced it with namespaces, is, and go ahead and open a BC15 or a BC16, you will see all these files only. And these files, if I'm not wrong, as of today are clubbed under uncategorized. Okay, and Mukesh sir, I guess your camera is on and off now. Okay. So here, what they were doing is they have these different folders which have the related objects. So like when you go into CRM, you'll see all the objects which are kind of part of that CRM piece in Business Central. If you go into HR, you'll see all the folders. Now what Microsoft have done now is, instead of these folders, they have created these different namespaces. And I was listening to it from that session from Microsoft, and they were saying that the next layer that they're working on is foundation. So they already splitted this all NAV code into the system application and base application. Now from the base application, they would like to build another layer of application, which will be foundation. The component of the foundation layer will be things which are used by multiple areas in Business Central. So you'll see number series and very common things which are utilized in this layer. I don't know will that be a separate extension in future or not, but wherever you see the word foundation, that means this is something that is getting into an area which will be common to other business applications that are being used in the system. So the number series is part of it. The address, the whole objects which are related to address management and all are part of it. Calendar, company, comment, extended text, because they don't belong to one certain area, they belong to different areas in Business Central. So that's the next layer that you'll see. And hopefully, if everything goes well, I think foundation may be a separate extension going forward. But at this moment, what we are talking about, don't get surprised, as Gret was saying, when you open a base Microsoft object and you see all these using by, because that is part of the namespace, will only get activated if your object have a namespace defined. Any questions, confusion there before we move forward?
I'm wondering the fact that how much beneficial are these namespaces. I'm sure Microsoft has done it, but haven't used yet, so still will work.
Um, from an
I'll
ISV
do.
perspective, it's a great enhancement, because now you have a way to kind of separate out your different solutions if they are baked in one single extension. Because as soon as you start defining namespaces, you'll be able to easily identify which object belong to this namespace and then kind of club them together. So, and I'll not be surprised, and this is again just an assumption, that tomorrow, if namespace becomes a thing while selling your apps on app stores, maybe, because then you can define that out of my 20 apps, which are just part of the same app, based on what namespace you purchase, you will get those kind of features. And there's no official statement about it. I'm just trying to read between the lines, because eventually the namespace will split your same extension into different features that you are providing with your app, and then you can define different layers of it using namespaces. But what's interesting to me at this point is what happens to the whole argument about the prefixes and suffix with the introduction of namespaces. The only reason of using the prefix and suffix is that it does not overlap in future or as of today with a Microsoft or an ISV solution. But okay, there's still one thing that is part of the prefix and suffix, and let's try that out. What if I create table extension, can I utilize the namespace into it? Well, that's the another thing that we do, where we have to use prefix because it might overlap with a field from the base Microsoft object. So if I try to create an extension on my customer table, and I can't see it, which is not surprising. Let's finish this. Okay, it understands it now. And what is the field here? Let's pick currency code. Okay. Right now, because I don't have a namespace, I'll say this and I'll say code 20. Okay. Now, if I change it to currency code, I'll surely be angry at me. But what if I go ahead? Can I add namespaces into table extension? Is what's my query right now. And it does. Yeah. Now the real question is, and I see an error. What is that error? Oh, because I defined it earlier. So that's why there is a problem. Let me try adding it here now. Add the word. Okay. So it added the using Microsoft Sales. And as soon as it defined it, here is an error. because now I'm using an existing namespace. So it now understand that I already have a field with the same name. Okay. So the prefixing, at least on the table extension, is still required. You can't eliminate that because as soon as you try to extend a base Microsoft object, it'll refer that namespace. And as soon as it refers that namespace, it'll have understanding of what you're doing. Now that also means, and I'll give it a try, that I can't create a method that is defined here. So let me try to see a procedure somewhere here, which is a small one. Let's copy this. Okay. And let's try to add it here. So now if you start using namespaces, you can't just directly copy paste things also, because now it doesn't understand this. So I'll have to retype it so that the system understand that I'm trying to add something from contact, business relationship, and adds the namespace definition for it, which is Microsoft CRM business relation. All right. So that also saves Microsoft where you're creating procedure which are similar to Microsoft procedure name if you have a namespace defined. Like I can't create a process. So it now when I think about it, the whole argument or the whole discussion about which method will be picked, if the same method exists in Microsoft extension, in ISV extension, and your extension, now the system will be able to resolve that based on the nearest namespace that or the or the reference namespace that you're utilizing. So now developers will be forced to use the prefixes on the method names so that it doesn't overlap with the Microsoft or ISV method names which are defined there. What about the global variable? I doubt that will go that route, but let's have a look. Are there no global variables on customer table? That's weird. Seriously. Okay, that seems a little bit odd. Or maybe I'm looking at something wrong. There should be global variables. Local, local. On the delete trigger. Okay, on insert trigger. On modify. Okay, here it is. What if I define a variable which is already defined in my parent namespace? What happens then? And I can't define it directly, I guess. Yeah. That's the problem with namespace. I'll have to type it in again. The compiler does not understand what I'm trying to do. Okay. Okay. So the variable are not kind of part of namespace. What is the part of namespace? The field, the object itself, and the method which are defined in that object are part of the namespaces that are there. And then as soon as you will start adding variables, it will automatically resolve the namespace where it is coming from and will add that dependency into your objects. Anything else that we need to talk about this? As in, yes, it'll be fun to play with it, but
So basically, namespaces are a superset.
um, these sorry, you said namespaces are superset of?
All of these objects then.
Yes,
Subsets.
a
Right.
object is defined inside a namespace, and a namespace can have multiple objects.
Right.
Okay. I'll be interesting to see that what is in uncategorized. That means they are still open to everyone. As in, yeah. So these objects are not defined.
These are not defined under the namespaces, which
Any
Microsoft
namespace. Yeah.
category.
So these are just plain normal objects at this moment, and I'm pretty sure as we go forward, Microsoft will start adding these objects into different namespaces also. But the namespace change only start impacting you if you start utilizing namespaces in your code. If you don't, then all your previous extension that you have built for your customer will have no problems. Okay. Here is the
And
Microsoft
extend.
definition. Go ahead.
So if I have to extend anything in the item table, so automatically the compiler will take the namespace
Yes,
stand.
if you type it, and I'm hopefully that these extension that we use, the wizards and all, will get upgraded as we go forward into time, and they will also understand that when you create a table extension, it also need to add the dependency to it.
So like it seems like a choice then.
Yes, it's a choice at this moment where while doing your development, if you are utilizing namespace, then you need to remember, or not remember, but you need to be aware that the namespaces will come into your code as you start adding references to other objects which are part of namespaces.
I'm moving like right now, if I'm not using namespaces, that is also fine.
That's
Obviously
okay.
moving forward, yeah. Moving
I don't know
forward,
what's
some
moving.
down the line, they will like put it mandatory to use it. I don't
I
any
doubt. I doubt
yeah.
at this moment that'll happen, but let's see.
Okay.
So the namespace provide a way of organizing objects and code in a logical and hierarchical manner. They can be used to help avoiding naming conflict between different extensions, making it easier to maintain understand extension, including the relationship between different objects. Because now I want to try one more thing as we are into this, spending time into this, that I have this table here called as th item, or maybe just item. Okay. And now what if I create a table called item ledger entry in my extension? Table.al. Let's define a table and we'll call it f50102 and I'll call it as item ledger entry. Okay. And let me define a field called item number, item code, I guess. That's what my field is, code 20. And if I define a table relation to my item table, it should refer to my table code. And hopefully, not hopefully, but if I go to definition, it will take you to your namespace item table. So even all your VS Code shortcuts will kind of rely to your namespace also. If I define a variable of item, it will still point to my namespace, which is this namespace. If there is a table item, it will get added. If that table is part of other namespace, that namespace will be added into my table definition at the top. Yeah, I just wanted to see what happens to this, but this will help you to clean up the code and organize your code even in same extension to group those code into different spaces or namespaces. Okay, anything else on namespaces, or we should start looking at something else? Okay, let me go and see if there's something on the slide still remaining. So we saw this will help you to debug or snapshot debug once the GA is available for this. Now, there's nothing much on slide, but let me go to my environment and we'll try to explore something else. One more thing that, okay, I'm done with it. Can you go back? Okay. One more thing
Saurabh,
that we were reading in the yes, sir.
I have one question. Like, let's
Go
say
ahead.
we created item table using like workspace, so namespace,
Mm-hmm.
and how it looks in the table view. Like, if you do Control Alt F1, how it will look.
If I do what?
Like you see on that properties window, like this item table, that how it will look like
Oh, in
in
here in the
yeah,
client.
yes, in the client side.
Okay,
Here,
let's
if you
let's
see the
publish this.
properties.
I'll have to publish this. So, and to see it on the client, I'll also have to create a page around it, right? So let me create a page around it. Did you create a page? I think yes. Oh, I'm not trying to refer to this. I'm trying to utilize my table, and let me add fields into it. Layout, okay, and area is repeater. The wizards kind of make you lazy. I kind of forgot everything. Content, okay. Ah, so hard, man. Oh, yeah.
Add repeater
Sorry,
first. Add.
repeater, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. See, thank you, sir. I've been a nightmare because I forgot using everything like. Okay, so T page field. Let's add the field code here. Okay, code. Okay, and the other field is description. Field description. Okay, and application area all is not needed, but okay, habit of putting that. Okay, now I have set the application area, and I also have to set the users category of list. Okay. Let's change this page to be running when I publish this. So let's do that. Okay, and let's do a publish. So once this gets published, let's have a look how that looks like. The table that we created, if you hover over it, you will see the name of the table from a system perspective becomes your namespace name dot your table name. So that's how this kind of differentiate from a naming convention. But let's have a look. And then the actual item table, and you do that. Okay, here it is. Now this is that page look like. Now, Abhinash, you want to see in the
Yeah, in the help and support and
inspect.
inspection.
Okay, let's have a look. Here it is. So the table is called item. The fields are as it is. And if you try to open the table, you'll just run into the table runner of table 50100. And that just tries to create new record into it. It's just like a normal table. There's nothing weird about it. So you don't see any difference from a user perspective. For you, it'll just be that page. The interesting part is, oh, you guys made me curious. What happens in the table info? Well, now there are two tables of name item. I can't see, man. I'll have to I'll have to either set up a Docker or wait for the on-prem release because this is SaaS. But that's a good question. What happens to the name of the table in SQL? But if I say item, what happens here? There are two tables with item.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
Yeah.
There are two tables with item. One, and I don't know why, but there's one record. The record size is so big. There's a base Microsoft table, have 56 record, and the record size is pretty small. Okay, that's an interesting question, Vijay. I'll have a look. I'll try to set up Docker tonight, maybe, and we'll see how that shape up because I should be able to check in SQL how that kind of shows me. Are there any other columns into it which I can add? I don't think I can personalize this page, but let's see. Can I? Yeah. Nothing here. Yeah. So on table information, it's called item. I'll have to see at the SQL level as which is asking what happens in SQL. So I'll have to set up a Docker environment to see how it looks when you actually publish it on an extension, on an environment, and what comes out of it. Okay. We are running out of time, but just look at this thing. I'm not able to test it out at this moment. Maybe it's still baking in, but as per the Microsoft documentation, it should be out. When you go into personalized option, as we just went a while ago, and you click on add field, the list is not that simple now. It shows you that is this field visible or hidden, and it gives you all the detail from here. It tells you what the field is, what the tooltip of that field, what is the data type, length, where it is defined, which is the extension that it is coming from. But these are recommended field, and there's a drop down alt field in preview, and I'm still looking for the permission, but it says that you can choose any field from on the page from the table or the table extension that is being created for that particular table, out of which some fields may not be recommended. And in that case, you need to consult the app developer to understand how they impact your experience. So when in the last release, Microsoft started talking about it, we had a discussion in the BC open discussion that doesn't make any sense to allowing access to add any field from the table into the page, which this feature brings in. But it seems Microsoft have taken into consideration that they should not allow all the fields to be added into the pages, because some of the fields behind the scenes are non-editable, but they are added for other purposes. So I'm hoping those fields will not be able to be exposed. And if you, as a customer, have a problem with that, reach out to IS, the app developer, which is your partner, or Microsoft in this case, to understand why you cannot add that field. The feature is only available while customizing role. So a user cannot just do it on the pages where they are in. They can only do it when you are customizing roles, if you have permission to do that. And then when you get into advanced, you are allowed to see certain options. What is the category of the fields that will be visible here? Table field not on the page object, which is weird, but it says the include fields from the source table that are not added to the page. Some fields may not be recommended and may affect the data if you make them editable. And that feature is only, again, customizing role. Page field bound to the table, that means which are in the table itself, and page field which are not bound to the table, which is interesting because I thought it is table extension, but it says include field defined in the page object that map to a variable or to a calculation. So sometime while developing pages, we might have field source expression coming from a variable or from a method calculation. If you enable this, you'll be able to see these fields here, which it seems at this moment on the customer table, no such field exists. Then the source from the base table, which is the original table, and from the table extension. So if there are table extension and user is looking for those fields, they can just limit the list from here. Visibility, page fields that are hidden. You only want to show them, or you want to see also the field which are already added on the page, and you can keep both of them open. Now, I think if you are exploring, just try to explore it for me, because I'm also exploring it. If I find it, I'll talk about it somewhere. But when you come into not this window, because some of these options said that they are only available in the profile section. When I go into profiles and I try to customize the page, at this point, I'm expecting I should be able to see those options enabled, because that's what that particular option showed me when I was trying to access it. But let's go into, okay, maybe it's here. Okay, so let's go into again on the customer page where we were, and let's try to add fields. Okay, I still cannot see this, and it says your admin has not granted permission to do this. And also in here, it said your administrator has not granted permission to do this. Now, I thought it might be related to permission, and this is what I was doing before this meeting. I start comparing, and this is BC23 preview, and this is BC22. I started comparing permission to see what has been added, and these are the new permissions that are being created in BC23. I'm not able to figure out which is that permission which will enable that option for me to add any field into the page, because I actually would like to see which fields Microsoft have not allowed to be added onto the page by default, and then maybe make a comment to Microsoft if needed. But the only permissions that I see is create field, which I've tried applying. Nothing happens to that. This is related to intercompany data analysis. We'll talk about it some other day. Payment and statical account. So this was the only one which looked like that it may apply, but I try applying it, nothing changed even after that. So maybe it's not related to permission, but that's what my first guess was, that maybe Microsoft have defined this to be assigned based on a permission. So I did try to add this, and sometimes this doesn't like to be typed. Yeah, I don't know why, but this does not like when you type things or copy paste things. You have to search for it. Why did that went? What was that? It was D365 create fields. Create fields, okay. And I added this permission, right? And I'm the only user into it. So I just added that permission into mine. Let's try to modify it now. It still shows you that you are not allowed to do or enable those options. I'm interesting. It will be interesting to see how Microsoft has configured it, because I did read the documentation. It didn't talk about is there any additional or new setup that has been created just for this. But I'm sure after doing this also, I was still getting the option to disable as disabled. So if I find out something, we'll talk about it in, let me see, am I here on next meeting? Yeah, I'm here on next meeting. So we'll try to figure that out into the next meeting. In the meantime, if you learn something, let me know. We'll talk about it, the rest of the things that we have learned in next week. Anything else, anyone?
There's one thing I wanted to ask with respect to costing methods on the item.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like when you have posted the as in use the item with any of the costing method, let's suppose FIFO, and now I want to change it. So it has the item ledger entry, and I want to change it. So is it possible or not possible to change after that?
If it was FIFO, and others can correct me if I'm wrong, if you reduce the inventory back to 0, change it, and then reintroduce your re-import your inventory, I think that's possible. But the only time I guess it's get confusing is when you choose it average, where you can't change it. Is that correct? Anyone?
Uh, just to add to that, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
when you bring the inventory to 0, you need to also run the backends to ensure
Yep.
that post we adjusted and post the
Yeah.
GL. And after that, you change the posting method to whatever you want to do, and then upload the inventory again.
So, so majorly that there are a lot of transfers. There are transfer of item is happening from one location to another location. So basically, I'm making a sales order, right? And with respect to the sales order, I have a field like entry number on the sales line, and on the sales line, I am looking up to the item ledger, and it's my choice. I want to um now when I'm looking up, so there are open entries, of course, open entries for that particular item. And so I want key like that, it's my wish, I want to take it from any location. So is it possible that I can put that from any look as in pull the item from any location?
I'm a little bit confused why you have a field on sales line which is looking at item ledger entry. To
So
pick
basically,
from location, as in the if you choose the location on your sales line, that makes it clear that you're picking it from that location.
so there has been a little customization and not a customization. It was just an request that so the system can making a sales order and you have to pick it from. I want to pick it from. Basically, that entry number is main. That is why you're right that I can look up to the location and I can put it from here. Like can pick it from there, but the entry now I want that entry number which is also there on the item ledger entry.
And then you want to apply it against that entry number.
Yes, yes. Apply that
Got
against
that.
the
But
location.
then that will be wrong, Tanya.
Yeah.
First, you need to transfer the inventory from that location to your location, then you can apply it. But you can't apply an entry which is lying on the another location.
So I was
I
just
mean,
actually confused because this is this
no,
was
this requirement is not valid. I mean, that is what my thought is.
mm-hmm,
The requirement should have been that when we are creating the sales order, the inventory
mm-hmm.
must be checked on the basis of all the locations, not only one location. But once we create the sales order, there should be some process to transfer the inventory from the other location to the selling location, and which can be done by using your MRP functionality from the equation worksheet.
MRP functionality. Okay.
Yeah, because let's say I create sales order on one location one, and I have
Right.
a requirement of 1,000 inventory, thousand quantity, and I don't have sufficient inventory available on that location. So I can create a stock keeping unit, set the requisition policy as transfer, and then I run the MRP. It will automatically suggest me to create the transfer order from the that location to this location.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you can use any costing method. If you are trying to resolve this from that, I don't think that will solve that. Because the
Actually, that
costing method is just helping during application that it automatically picks up whatever came in
question
first,
first.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Correct. So let's suppose I have a location A and it has there are multiple as in ledger entry against it and different quantities as well on different suppose first one the transfer, second was sales shipment, a lot of things on the same location, right? And system what the system is doing is system is working as a FIFO method which I was debugging. I figured out that it's a FIFO of a thing. It's happening, it's and automatically it is taking the first entry, right? So
Agreed.
yeah, so I wanted, it's my wish. I want to get if I want to take it from the first, second, or third. But I was just wondering, is
So
it even possible
that,
or not?
that'll solve as Mukesh sir is saying, because if you do that exactly at that point and you only create the transfer order of the quantity that is required by the order, it'll automatically be the FIFO or whatever your costing method. It'll just pick because that's the only inventory at that moment
I
on
don't
that
want
location.
FIFO. Suppose I
No,
don't
no, I'm
want
saying
FIFO.
if you choose LIFO, then it'll pick the last entry. And in that case, if you want the first entry, then it'll fail, right?
So, and what if I want to? It's on my wish.
It's on your wish.
Do I have to
Hmm.
actually find this thing in the system, or so system is currently working on FIFO method? I get it. There is the LIFO method. I get it. There's an average. There's a specific. There are this. So do we give the end user also this provision? Like it's your choice. You can, as in, uh, take it from any location. Or is it even a good choice, a good
Mm,
provision? I'm just
Tanya,
figuring out.
implement another way for doing it could be implementing the lot number or serial number on those. Okay.
Okay. Mhm.
But the restriction will be that you will have to use the inventory from that location only. Okay.
And the first
So
one, if
that
you're
will
saying.
be the lot number or the serial number. If you
Serial number.
implement lot number or serial number, the costing method becomes specific. So it picks the specific entries where that lot number or serial number is lying. Okay, but that inventory must be on the location where the sales order is being created.
It is there. It's correct. It is there. The entry
It is
is
there,
there.
it is there, then there is no problem. Then what you need to do, bring the inventory zero, implement the lot number or serial number functionality depending on the requirement. So serial number works means that each inventory, each quantity has a
Mm-hmm.
specific number assigned to it. Lot number is for a batch, like 10 quantity can be assigned to one. So if you go for that, serial number and lot number, then your problem will be solved. So whatever you are selecting on the sales order, only that inventory will be moved.
So basically, I am tagging this serial number to the inventory, correct? On the same location.
Yes, so you are tagging so if you implement the lot number or serial number, it is
Uh-huh.
applicable for all the transaction, not only sale. So
Yeah.
if you are purchasing something, you will have to first assign the lot number, serial number when the inventory is coming inward. So you assign it, and then when you are sending it out, you will have to select which serial number or lot number is going out. Okay, and then your posting method or everything will work fine. There will be no problem.
Correct, correct. But I was just actually, this was the only thing I was figuring out. Is it even a good way to customize this as per the
No.
client's or
No customization required. This is a simple case of lot number serial number.
Yeah. You
Where the
use
client is saying you need to you select a specific entry. If you need to select a specific entry, it means you are asking for a lot of serial number.
yeah. And then no customization is required. If you have tagged your items with with serial number, and if it is
uh-huh.
available at that location, it'll automatically pick that. You don't
Okay.
have to do
Okay.
any custom around it. Just read about it. As in,
Yes.
there's a little bit setup that need to be done for it, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
to start tagging your inbound entries. And then, as Mukesh sir said, while going out, you need to define which lot or serial number you are trying to consume in this, and system will force you to do that. So you don't have to even build in any checks and validation for it.
Perfect. Perfect. I'll read it. Thank you.
I
Thank you
think that
so
there will be an item which is already tagged that way in the Cronus databases. Let me see if I can find one. Um, and you can test out that with that. Item tracking code is not blank. Earlier there used to be in the NEV word. I don't know now they do give it or not. Right. I hope they'll, yeah. So there are these items where the quantity on hand is 0, but any item that gets inbound or outbound of these will have a, oh, this is FIFO. Then they also define that. Why? Okay,
No,
specific.
just check for the posting method doesn't matter over here.
Yeah,
Item
in
tracking
this,
code matters. Yeah,
yeah,
item
item
tracking
tracking
code.
code is there. Yeah, item, that's what I filter. So it is, where is the item tracking code? Item tracking here. So this is SN prod, right? And here there are some policies that enforce by the system automatically, which
We
is,
should check with either SM all or lot all.
yeah, so either serial or lot,
Not
right?
all.
or lot. Serial is for like sorry, the lot is for a batch, right? If I have a batch of items.
Yeah, and then once you, so test out with this, try to do purchases and sale against it, and you'll understand how you need to do that, and also define the lot number series here, if just to make it easier for you.
Okay.
And try with
Okay.
this item, inbounding and outbounding this, and you'll understand how the serial number and lot number works to it.
And this thing is right that I got this thing. If I have to change it, so inventory has to be 0, right?
Yes. Yeah. The only problem happens once it is average, then I guess you cannot change it, as far as I understand it. I can be wrong, but
So this is basically a restriction by BC, which has, if you have to, actually it doesn't allow me to change, but then I got the reason now that you have to make it to 0, then you can.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Gret is typing something, but anything else, anyone?
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, great session.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you,
See you
sir.
next week.
It was like
And if you find something, let me know
Thanks.
on any social media. We'll talk about it.
Thank you,
Thanks.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
okay,
Goodbye.
bye.
Bye. Okay, so if you are still here, thank you for staying here. Let me know which is your best liked feature in Business Central 2023 release wave 2. Did we cover that? If anything that we covered is still not complete, you need more details about it, just let me know into the comment section and I'll be happy to talk about it next week. You know the drill. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you think the information was useful and need to be shared with other BC developers and consultants, do share this video. And if you haven't, then please subscribe to the channel and we'll keep talking about the great product that we all like, which is Business Central. Have a nice day and thank you.